Aloha and welcome to the Bear Woznick Adventure, coming to you from beautiful Waikiki Beach. We're right next to St. Augustine's Catholic Church by the sea. So if you're ever in the area, go to our website, schoolofmanliness.com. Let us know if you want to go have some coffee together after Mass. We'll be right back with the Bear Woznick Adventure. We have as our guest today, Dr. Carrie Cress. And guess what? We're going to talk about toxic feminism. This is Bear Woznick Adventure.
Welcome to the Bear Woznick Adventure. Kickstart that engine and roll thunder with the pack. Explore the grittiness of manly spirituality. Gain traction in the virtues. Zoop up your spiritual engine by turning adversity into adventure. Now here's Bear Woznick. Let's ride.
Aloha, welcome back to the Bear Woznick Adventure. My beautiful bride, Cindy, always asks me to start our show off with the Hawaiian sign of the cross. Maybe our guest, Carrie knows, Dr. Carrie Cress knows it, but we'll start off with the sign of the cross, and then I'll have a little excerpt from my newest book that Sophia will be publishing in the next few months. Ake makua ke keiki a me ke ahane hemalele, in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So I have a new book coming out. School of Manliness, 12 rules for the 12 rules for manliness. Where have all the cowboys gone? Book hit number 5 for books for Christian men. So it's a pretty good read. The new book is going to be called Men of Grit and Grace: Daily Challenges for Men to Chew On. It's basically man meditations. It's like beef jerky for a man's soul. But this is an excerpt. I'm just taking a random daily excerpt from it. This is called Taking Responsibility Makes a Boy into a Man. And I quote a lot of the early church fathers. I quote some philosophers. I quote Western movies. I quote Louis L'Amour, the great Western novelist. We just get random quotes from many different places. And this is Louis L'Amour. Love this man. I've read 105 of his Western novels. This is from The Education of a Wandering Man. Much was forgiven if a man had courage, integrity, and if he did his job. If a man gave less than his best, somebody else had to pick up the slack, and he was not admired. And so these are my words kind of based on that cowboy theme. To a cowboy, being a quitter is as bad as being a horse thief. When someone quits, they leave others holding their bag and having to do their work, or worse yet, they leave them in jeopardy. Don't run from responsibility. Running from responsibility is really running from God's will. Running from God's will is running from God. This is a road to a gradual deterioration that leads to sudden disaster. In the film Cowboys, Will Anderson, played by John Wayne, was forced to hire on boys on a cattle drive when no one else would go. As the film progresses, you see these boys taking on responsibility and hardship and growing into their manhood. John Wayne exhorted them, "There's no time for weakness, boys. You've got work to do." It is only by taking on responsibility that a boy becomes a man. Today, there are too many boys posing as men, too many soft men who don't stand up and step into the fray. They don't take responsibility for themselves or anybody else. You are a leader. You lead by example, especially to younger men. Leaders serve. You're a leader. The only question is, where are you leading people? Chew on it. That's my wife says always at the end of the meditation, to say the word, just chew on it. In Hawaii, we have a word, kuleana. It means stewardship. It means responsibility, but it's more like it's a part of your soul, the responsibility God gives you. And that responsibility will form you and fashion you and strengthen you and break down the parts that need to be broken down and build up the parts that need to be built up. And that kuleana is really a way for you to see God do stuff, because when you're in God's will, you get to see him do stuff. So we have today as our guest, Dr. Carrie Cress. I have a lot of people send me inquiries, people they think that I might want to interview. When I saw this, I just jumped on it. I'm so thankful for you being here. Thank you, Dr. Carrie Cress.
Oh, my pleasure. It's great to be here.
You got a cool background. You have a doctorate of philosophy from Catholic University of America.
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that, yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm sure your question's
Well,
going to be.
it's so needed because right now I think we saw back in the 60s kind of a leaving behind of Jerusalem, and now we see people leaving behind Athens. They're just like we've gone
Yep.
into chaos.
Yeah.
Tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about you, just a little bit of your backstory, and then we're going to dig into this your newest book. What is it again? It's called Something
Wicked.
Wicked, and what's the
Mhm.
subtitle?
Why feminism can't be fused with Christianity is the subtitle. So, yeah. So I actually grew up in Oregon, and talk about not knowing Jerusalem or Athens. Eugene, Oregon is a really unique place, and I think that because it was so. It was full of hippies and pot growers, and every summer the Grateful Dead would show up with every magic bus you could imagine.
My daughter was probably there.
Yeah, the side of the Mississippi. They were all there. Um, I think that I just saw the chaos of these people's lives, and I saw the fallout from it. And it's just something you viscerally live with. You smell it, the body odor and the marijuana, and all of that. And so, in any event, I think it was one of those things where I wanted to understand how living amidst all of this, and then really understanding Christianity to a certain degree. I was raised a cradle Catholic, but I didn't really adopt it as my own until I became until after my father passed away, actually, when I was a teenager. And so that was really a changing point for me. But yeah, so I wanted to be able to make sense of what was swirling around me ideologically, and I wanted to understand the church. And so I started out. I actually studied history initially, and then I eventually started studying philosophy because I thought that's really where you get the meat of the ideas. And I did my master's degree at Steubenville Franciscan University there.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh, I'm
And
pursuing
then
my master's degree in theology over time.
Oh, that's
They're
great.
online. Yeah. I love those
no,
people.
it's amazing that you can do that now. I think really
Yeah.
incredible. So, so I just kept going, and finally got the PhD in it. And I think you're right. I think that this is one of the most frustrating pieces is just the fact that people don't know how to reason. And part of my mission has really been to focus on this idea of understanding the role that emotions have played in the culture. In terms of really distorting womanhood. And so I think that's an important piece, and trying to help women and men really supplant the emotional response to everything, to, going back to how do we think through these things in a careful and helpful and, fruitful kind of way.
It's so important. So were you studying Western history?
I was.
Or all history, yeah. And so eventually you got to go to philosophy because the Catholic Church, the Catholic Church is Western history pretty much for the first 1,500 years or even more. And then, so I love Aquinas. I'm sure that's a lot of your grounding is in that with the
Certainly.
approaches that you're taking. Yeah, my dad used to always say, learn Aquinas so you can learn how to think. He must have thought I was never couldn't think so good, but no, he teaches us how to think. And I can tell when someone is talking, even a guest on a TV show, if they've been formed by Catholic thinking. In other words, basically, I'm thinking of Aquinas. That way of thinking it just really brings clarity, and we've really gone off the rails. And they talk to men about toxic masculinity, but there's a toxic femininity out there too. That is, I think, in a lot of ways, the Western world has gone towards that emotional reaction, and they call it feminism. It's the farthest thing from being feminine.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. And I started researching this about 10 years ago. I had written a book called The Marian Option. And in that book, I wrote a chapter called Are We in the Age of Mary or the Anti-Mary? And, I'm looking at all these Marian apparitions that are happening, but I'm also looking at sort of elite women in the culture and saying, these things do not match at all. Our Lady and, you can think of really any elite woman, especially 10 years ago, and you're going to see the mismatch pretty easily. And so that's really what got me thinking about this. And then my publisher, Tan Books, asked me to write a whole book on this idea of the anti-Mary. And so that's what got me into it. And at that point, I initially thought, I only looked at second wave feminism, and I initially thought, the first wave was good. There was a lot of great content there, and I just didn't need to bother with it. And eventually I started looking at the first wave for my last book that was published in 2023 called The End of Woman. And in that book, I thought I'd scheduled about 2 days to do research on the first wave of feminism, because I was so convinced it was good. And, the more I got into it, the more I realized that just from the very beginning, the very core of what feminism is about is deeply anti-Christian. And so that was really what led to this book, because in my last book, it's a philosophical kind of journey through feminism, through the different eras, to show how we got from, first wave feminism to the trans movement, and just step through.
Right.
They're all connected.
We're talking about that. We got to take a break, Dr. Carrie. So
right.
Where can people find you, and give us the name of the book one more time?
The new book is Something Wicked, Why Feminism Can't Be Fused with Christianity. Best place is usually Instagram or my own blog, theologyofhome.com.
And it's Dr. Carrie, can you spell Carrie, and the last name is Gress with a Gress, correct?
That's exactly it. Yep.
Yeah, I can spell. I don't care what people say.
Well done.
We'll be right back with more of the Bear Woznick adventure.
Schoolofmanliness.com is a place for men of grit and grace to join together, to inspire, to encourage, and to challenge each other to grow in manly virtue. Members receive morning man meditations, a monthly curriculum that is rich with audio, video, and written content, and a trail guide to help you map out your new trajectory. Many of our members lead their sons through this same curriculum. Your membership gives you access to both the Man Cave, which is our non-Facebook type community, and the School of Manliness at schoolofmanliness.com. Become a member at schoolofmanliness.com. Deep Adventure Ministries is grateful to Notre Dame Federal Credit Union for underwriting the Bear Woznick adventure on EWTN. Notre Dame Federal Credit Union provides car loans, mortgages, SBA loans, and depository accounts nationwide, as well as 24-hour support. Go to deepadventure.com to find their link, or go to NotreDameFCU.com. Mahalo to Notre Dame Federal Credit Union for making the Bear Woznick adventure possible. Here is a YouTube video short, which is based on an excerpt from my newest book, 12 Rules for Manliness, Where Have All the Cowboys Gone? How a man treats a woman defines him. You see, a man is made of mud. He's just physically more powerful and stronger, and in other ways too. Though a woman may be strong in many ways, a man, if he chooses to, usually dominate her. That's why I say how a man treats a woman defines him. He may show respect to a bigger, stronger man or to his boss, but how does he treat the woman in his life? In fact, even though he may not have even met his woman, his bride-to-be yet, is he still faithful and devoted to her in all of his actions? How does he treat his mom, his sisters, his co-workers, his classmates, his restaurant server, the girl that he's on a date with? This defines him as a man. How you think of, speak of, and treat a woman is the litmus test that proves the durable love you have as a good man. My newest book, 12 Rules for Manliness, Where Have All the Cowboys Gone?, has hit the top 5 in Christian books for a good reason. It's because men are searching for traction and a trail guide to live out the unique calling and the gifts that they were born with, that each man individually is factory loaded with by God. Paul said, "Be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, do all things in love." Finally, here is a book that talks with men the way men talk with each other. Just plain old straight shoot. By the way, Mama Bears, this is your chance to get this message to your men. Go to schoolofmanliness.com or anywhere books are sold. 12 Rules for Manliness. Where have all the cowboys gone?
This is a warning. The Bear Woznick adventure is dangerous. The radical change Bear challenges you to is not for wimps. Change this station now to a soft rock station before it's too late. You've been warned. Now, here is Bear Woznick.
Aloha, welcome back to the Bear Woznick Adventure. You know why we call it that is because everyone's on an adventure. You get to just join in mine a little bit while we're on this radio show. And the only reason I have a radio show because I get to talk to really cool people that would normally not even talk to me, but because I have a radio show, I get to talk with the most interesting people. When I heard about Dr. Carrie Cress's book, Something Wicked, I forget the rest of it, but it's basically what's the name of the rest of the book? What's the subtitle?
Why feminism can't be fused with Christianity. I
jumped on that. I was so glad it's a woman talking about it. You know, it's something like, it is interesting how back in the 60s that I guess maybe that's where the first wave started, kind of like around the time of the pill. There was the thought was when anything a man can do, I can do better. Or basically it's like, I can be a man. I can go do this. I can be like that. I can do that. And it really I think was a lie, that why would a woman want to be a man? I mean, in terms of their life pursuits and having to go into environments that are just anything but feminine. And so there was just that deceit that a woman can be a man. I don't mean like, in gender ways, but in pursuits. And now it is a woman can be a man can be a woman. It's really broken down to that pursuit. Tell us about that first wave and what you identify there.
So the first wave actually started in 1792 with Mary Wollstonecraft. So that's early. That one ends in 1963 with Betty Friedan's book, The Feminine Mystique. So you've got, 150 plus years of the first wave. Okay. But what's fascinating about it is that this idea of the masculine is really central to it. You've got the Industrial Revolution is happening, and suddenly there's this huge shift that takes place where the home is no longer the central location where the family lives, works, gets educated, is entertained. All those things get shipped outside the home. And suddenly children are a liability. They're not an asset anymore. Suddenly we have to figure out what to do with our kids. We have to go leave the home to work, and home is really denigrated. And so this is sort of the first step. And the feminist movement at this time sees all this and says, you know what, you're going to be a lot happier if you can be like men. And this is Mary Wollstonecraft's idea back in 1792 already. This if we can just mimic the way of men are, then we're going to be happier. And so that's where it really kicks off. And then it just kind of gets distorted, especially on a theological level, because many of these early women in the 1800s, women like Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony, the people think of as just, they just wanted the vote. They don't realize that they were actually using this idea that Christianity was a tool that men were using to enslave women. So they were comparing the women's lives to slavery, which, if you think about the reality of that, it's just audacious. This is
a little bit overstating. Yeah.
So that's a first wave. Then the second wave comes along, and Betty Friedan has this book called The Feminine Mystique. And in that, she's calling the home the comfortable concentration camp, and making the claim that the home is the terrible place, that women are really going to be a lot happier if they don't have husbands, they don't have children. And, you can see how this very easily leads into the abortion movement, because children are an obstacle to a woman's happiness if you're being told that you have a man.
It's just
so it's pretty insidious, but so that's really where the movement has gone, and I think a lot of people have tried to dress it up as something deeply Christian or somehow compatible with Catholicism, but if you look at the roots of it, they're actually the exact same roots that come from the French Revolution, same roots as socialism, same roots as communism. It all tracks on the same path of this idea of how do we get to a godless egalitarianism where everybody's just an interchangeable worker. And so that's really, I think, what we're seeing, and just the incredible tragedy is that we haven't done a good job of really fighting this, because I think women on a lot of respects have benefited from it. And so it's very hard to, look at something from which you're benefiting and you're being told repeatedly you're benefiting from. In fact, I get a lot of pushback because people think, oh, well, you have a PhD, you've benefited from feminism, how can you criticize it? And so I think that's the part of the problem, is that the feminists have done a really good job of insulating themselves from any kind of scrutiny. And, men certainly don't want to talk about it. And this is, we're also told that, if you're against feminism, you're against women in general. And so there's all these crafty ways that have, I think, protected it from people saying, there's a real problem with this. And it's only now that I think we've gotten to the point where people are seeing the problems of it, whether it's the mental illness, the abortion numbers, the unhappiness of women in general. Women are much less happy now than they were 40 years ago. Suicide rates, depression rates, substance abuse, all of these things really point to some damage. And this has been one of the things that I do, is really trace it back to what happens when you try to tell women to behave like men. And at this point, not even good men, very promiscuous men, selfish, self-absorbed, and a lot of dabbling in the occult, on top of that. So it's really a very deeply negative thing. And I think it's finally getting some of the scrutiny that it's needed for a long time.
You're doing a good job of that. There's a church here in Hawaii that when Mass begins, they'll say, this is the name of our church. I don't want to mention the name. We've been here since such and such a date, and upholding gospel values. And when I hear that, it's like, oh, yeah, it's not the gospel. It's what you think the values are. And people go, well, you see people, I saw someone being, I think at a Senate or congressional hearing, and she had the ashes on her forehead, but saying anything but Catholic, but talking about Christian values and feelings and it is tolerance. Tolerance gets to the point of just license.
Yeah.
So
that's the point that we're at, and it's also become this kind of entitlement. I mean, I think this is one of the things that all over the place, is that because women have been told they're victims, we've swung the pendulum so deeply the other direction to this idea that women are entitled to do whatever they want in order, for the sake of equality. Again, this is where the tragedy, not just of abortion, is very real, but even in terms of the care for children, we're seeing incredible amounts of mental illness. Many of them can be traced back to the fact that you have children who were never properly attached to a mother or a primary caregiver, that really could look in those child's eyes and say, you're loved and known and cared for, and I'm here for you. That's the missing piece that people are missing. And as a result, we're seeing the cluster B pathologies in particular really showing up: narcissism, borderline personality, histrionics. All of these things are really a result that, they go back to those very first years of a child's life. And, it just shows us how important mother is. And I think even the epidemic of loneliness that we see, because women don't understand that they're this incredible fabric, of society that holds pieces together.
The moms are so critical. I think that a person gets their self-esteem from their mom. And then they get their confidence. They used to get their confidence from their dad, right? Con feed means with faith. In other words, dude, we're going to go skydiving tomorrow. We're going to push the limits tomorrow. So a lot of that confidence comes from the dad prodding them, because on one of these days he wants to kick them out of the house and have a life of their own. But the mother is so essential. Just like in that first few weeks of nursing the child, all these important antibodies are given to the baby. Those toddler years and up are just, without the mom being present, not all the time, but with quality time and nurturing time, that's where that baby gets and we see so many people, I guess, a sense of abandonment when they were young. And then they're thrown right into the world, into some structured environment with a daycare or who knows what. Yeah.
Yeah, all of that I think plays into it. And I think one of the things that was really interesting about researching this book was was that idea of what is it that the father brings to the table. And I looked at a study about matriarchies, and with a matriarchy, you usually end up with kind of this ghettoization where the culture can't flourish because women want to keep their children close and them, but they don't have this sense that the father brings, which is that sense of, you got to get out of here. I'm pushing you out of the nest. Or you have this a gift. You need to protect this. And that's what the father provides, is that this great image of a hydraulic dam where the father is the one who's allowing the child to, release things or to hold things back in a very particular way, such that then the family flourishes. Then the whole culture can flourish in a way that doesn't happen when you just have women, leading the household. So that was really fascinating piece to really start digging into, and I think fits into your great example of the confidence, with faith, sense of responsibility, and
pushing them out of the nest.
Yeah.
And Dr. Carrie Cress, tell us again the name of your book and where they can find you before we take this break.
The book is called Something Wicked: Why Feminism Can't Be Fused with Christianity. And people can get it signed copies at my blog, theologyofhome.com, or certainly from sophiainstitute.org.
Yeah, we love the people. I love Charlie and all the people there at Sophia. They're just great people. We'll be right back with more of the Bear Woznick adventure.
People love our EWTN TV show, Long Ride Home with Bear Woznick. Thanks to you, the show has won 4 different Tally Awards. And now, instead of waiting each week for the next episode to air, you can actually binge watch our show and even share it with your friends when you go to deepadventure.com and join the Mama Bears or the Man Cave. Along with all the other benefits, you get total access to all the seasons of our aired episodes, plus instant access to episodes that won't even air for several months. Long Ride Home with Bear Woznick, a great way to communicate the gospel in a gritty enough way that even tough men will stop and watch at deepadventure.com. Here is a YouTube video short, which is based on an excerpt from my newest book, 12 Rules for Manliness, Where Have All the Cowboys Gone? My mom used to say that God is a bit of a swashbuckler. Do you know that God has an adventure plan just for you that fits the gifts that He gave you and the desires that He placed in your heart? He wants to ride alongside you and be the one who goes out ahead of you and scouts the terrain for you. He knows the way, He knows the pitfalls, and He knows the great vistas that will rise up before you. Your life adventures will be a challenge and at times seem impossible, and of course they are, because God wants to show up from time to time and help you do the impossible. That's the way God is. He's a bit of a swashbuckler. He's like the cavalry showing up at the last minute and riding in to save the day. So why don't you ride along with Jesus for a while and just see what adventure lies around the next corner for you.
Be the kind of man that when he gets out of bed in the morning, the devil says, "Oh no, he's up." Go to deepadventure.com and invite Bear to speak.
Aloha, welcome back to the Bear Woznick adventure. I want to invite everyone to go to our website, schoolofmanliness.com. I'm working really hard trying to get a better site up for our mama bears out there, who, as you know, can be fierce. And we have the School of Manliness there. The School of Manliness actually has a man cave that's part of it, which means it's a non-Facebook community of men. Every day we post a thought for the day, and every morning you get a text, which is just an excerpt from the catechism as we go all the way through the catechism together. And like later this week, we're having our Zoom video meetup where we all get together once a month. And once a year, we all get together for a man cave meetup. And we're really just a bunch of knuckle draggers, misfits. I think like when King David had his cave of Adullam, they said it was all misfits that showed up there. And then they formed each other, and God formed them into men of valor. And so we need each other. You can't be a lone wolf and make it. So I'm asking the men to go to schoolofmanliness.com and sign up for the man cave. And I'm asking the mama bears to go here, sign up for the man cave. It's a great thing to do for men, especially because when we give you get the curriculum every Saturday morning for the School of Manliness, and you can go through it with your sons. Once a week, spend some time. It's a dialogue you have to have with them, and it's so hard to get that dialogue started. We have Dr. Carrie Cress with us today. She's really smart. She went to Steubenville. She went to Catholic University of America. She's got a degree in philosophy, which I want to have one. I would love that degree. I would love that degree. You learn all the words that you thought you were using right. You weren't, like accident. Things like that, like what? There's a
right.
what kind of, so.
Right.
But
exactly.
Yeah, but a smile on your face because it's just such a delight though. I had a young man visiting here in Hawaii a few weeks ago, and brilliant kid, but had not been exposed to and a strong Christian, but more in the Protestant realm, had not been exposed. In fact, had been taught how bad Catholics are. He had this beautiful, beautiful brain. Beautiful mind. And I told him, I gave him Dr. Peter Crave's book, the Summa of the Summa. And I said, just read this and you're going to feel the synapses in your mind start to click and, just kind of snap into place. And then there's going to be a clarity of thought and a stream of thought. And that's why I encourage people to read the Catholic Catechism every day. And you can read it as Lectio Divina, but the Catechism, the mixture of revelation and theology and philosophy, it just brings clarity to our thoughts. What is this thought? Someone once said that it takes a village to raise a child. It really takes a mom and a dad, really. I mean, it's nice to have the village there, but you need a mom and a dad, right?
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's a huge point, is that effort of father and mother, creating their own culture, being aligned in a goal to create something interiorly such that then their children can go out and change the world.
Change the world.
I think that's really, really critical. Obviously, it's nice to have help, but I think we have to, we understand the cornerstone of culture really is the family, and that's where we've got to start.
It's the domestic church.
It's
the domestic church. Yeah. So we've identified some of the issues. We can dig a little deeper into that, and then I'd like to have you tell us about what is the solution. What kind of mindset do we need to take into this battle? Because it is a battle, and what kind of actual steps we can take too.
Yeah. Sorry, what was the first thing? I got distracted.
I know there's more of this thought that you want to develop.
Oh, sure.
Especially what's been happening in the last 10, 15 years. But then we're here. Where we go with it?
Exactly. Well, I think that the thing that is really important is first to understand just how distorting feminism has been. And, I think all of us we're really recovering from feminism. I don't think there's any of us who have been untouched by it in one way or another. And I know that, I've been on this journey for a long time. I didn't really realize what it was that I was recovering from until more recently. But, it's something that we have to kind of wash out of our psyche because we've been so indoctrinated and so deeply into it, this kind of idea of the primary focus being women's autonomy. And because feminism, one of the things that it was trying to do was protect women, sort of bubble wrap us from any kind of vulnerability. And so you're not going to be vulnerable if you don't have relationships. And that's really what it's done is, I've got my own money, I've got my own degree, I've got my own life, I can entertain myself. And none of these other pieces are seen as important, I think, in the culture today. But of course, it's really the family and children that brings the greatest meaning to women's life. Why? Because women are made to be life givers. We're made to be mothers, whether we like it or not. We're made not just biological mothers, but spiritual mothers, psychological mentors, educators, all of those kinds of things. We have these incredible gifts to be in relationship with other people. And we really crave that deep relationship as well. And so that's, I think, the biggest tragedy of feminism is it's completely sent us off in this path that's totally opposed to our nature. And we've bought into it in dramatic and huge ways, very distorted ways. So if you can, stepping through it, you can see what's been taken from us. First the home, then our husbands, then our children. Now we're even at war with our own fertility. And then, of course, we're now at war with our own body parts in the trans movement. So it's this real progression where you can see this emptying of the feminine. And, as members of the church, we understand what the end goal is. This is not of God, because what it's doing is the erasure of anything Marian, and it's the erasure of the church itself. The church we understand to be the bride of Christ.
The bride, yeah.
If you don't understand a bride, then you're going to have
the mother, right? Mother.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And virginity too.
Yes. Wow.
So all of those pieces are really rolled into this kind of, this kind of heresy that we've adopted. And it's just completely incompatible with Christianity on so many different levels. So
I think go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, feel free to jump in.
I think it just has to do with niceness. I've been introduced every now and then. You got to meet Bear. He's a really nice guy. And I go, no, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm a nice guy. I'm just not a nice guy. I mean, no one to blow off a little steam at someone in the water when they drop in on me on a wave or something. I'm not. But I want to be a good man. That's a totally different thing, because Jesus said only God is good.
Yeah.
So good, as you know in philosophy, is fulfilling your telos, your personal being, the way God made you, and and not just that you're a man or a woman, but the uniqueness that God gave you is that pursuit of being good. Good, be what God made you to be.
And I think that is an absolute great segue into what the answer is, because I think what feminism has done is it's completely confused us about what a good woman is. I think that there was a study done recently that men can still describe what a good man is versus kind of a real man who's the one that cuts corners. But a good man, people understand there's a sense of mission and self-sacrifice there. But if you ask anyone, if I took a poll today about what a good woman is, we would be incredibly, we can't even define what womanhood is, much less what a good woman is, because we've so distorted the meaning of it. So I think that's the real key to moving forward, is getting back to this idea of understanding what good womanhood looks like and finding models for that. And that's really why we've become so distorted. We don't have real models in the culture of what this looks like. And again, this is where the saints and the church can be so incredibly helpful, because we've got all of this richness to choose from. It's, we're not just stuck watching TV or, YouTube to try to figure out what womanhood is. But much of that, again, comes back to this idea of being life-giving, because if you're a life-giving woman, you're going to be a delight to be around in the workplace. You're going to be a delight. People will enjoy
Well said. You
will be, a good mother, and it will be very seamless. Obviously you're going to grow and mature, and seasons are going to change, but that fundamental orientation of understanding your role as a life giver, it makes it very easy to then travel through all of these different areas and different, places of life.
You're a wordsmith. I love the way you put words together. My wife is exactly that. That doesn't mean that she's always nice to people in just this sense. Right. She always brings peace into my life. She encourages me. But she's so good at talking to me or other people with her thoughts, kind of an insight, but not with emotion attached, not with opinion, but just saying it, just a little adjustment, or I don't know how to say it. She says it with such detachment. The wisdom, so that people can receive it. And that's part of that nurturing woman. You speak your thoughts, speak your mind, but it doesn't mean to just be nice all the time. We need that feminine input. Men need that feminine input in their lives. What they don't need is the naggy, oppressive, we're talking with, we're talking with Dr. Carrie Cress. And what's the name of your book again?
Something Wicked, Why Feminism Can't Be Fused with Christianity.
We'll be right back with more of the Bear Woznick adventure.
Deep Adventure Ministries is grateful to Notre Dame Federal Credit Union for underwriting the Bear Woznick adventure on EWTN. Notre Dame Federal Credit Union provides car loans, mortgages, SBA loans, and depository accounts nationwide, as well as 24-hour support. Go to deepadventure.com to find their link, or go to NotreDameFCU.com. Mahalo to Notre Dame Federal Credit Union for making the Bear Woznick adventure possible. Here is a YouTube video short, which is based on an excerpt from my newest book, 12 Rules for Manliness, Where Have All the Cowboys Gone? Grapple with God. Like Jacob wrestling with God in the desert. Have the boldness and the courage to clinch with God, even to grapple with God. All God wants is for us to get real with Him, to get gritty and lay it all out on the line. God wants us to wrestle with Him, for it is with Him with whom we have to do. And even to say no to Him, to resist Him, but never letting go of Him until finally, in all the muck and the mud of our stubborn lives, His relentless love breaks through and fills our souls with new and right desires. And all we can say to Him is, yes, Father, your will be done. Let me will the true good through self-donation.
Are you still listening? I thought we warned you to change to an easy listening station. Well, you asked for it. Here is more of the Bear Woznick adventure.
Aloha, welcome back to the Bear Woznick Adventure. I want to remind you, EWTN every now and then shows our series Long Ride Home, our motorcycle travel series. But if you want to, you can power watch it on Prime Video. There's 33 episodes. The last 11 were filmed in Hawaii. And it's just a great way for you to have your kids sit and watch. We actually do some funny skits in this thing where while we're riding on motorcycles around the United States, we're being chased by bounty hunters, supposedly. But as we're riding, it's like immersive reality. The Holy Spirit shows up and a lot of great things happen. So it's a great way for you to also evangelize. We have several bikers, not that it's just for bikers, but one of my friends, Trace Big Guns Chamberlain, walked by the TV and saw the show and he got riveted, and now he's Christian, Catholic, and so it's the sort of thing where men can really identify with. The women love it too, and the children can watch it too. So it's called Long Ride Home with Bear Woznick. I forgot to mention that. You have to say Long Ride Home with Bear because apparently there's other Long Ride Homes on Prime Video. We have Dr. Carrie Cress with us. It's her new book is Something Wicked, and then what's the subtitle?
Why feminism can't be fused with Christianity.
Okay, so I want to say something to the men out there. You know what I'm tired of is the men talking like they're victims. Oh, they make fun of us on TV and the sitcoms and in the commercials, and we've been so marginalized. That makes me want to throw up. The reality is you're not a victim unless you let yourself be a victim. And there is this sort of, like you mentioned it earlier, there's this oppressed versus victim mentality that really isn't valid, but everywhere in the world, they want to go oppressor, victim. You're either one or the other. And if you get upset enough as a victim, now you're an oppressor. And it's just a joke. So for men who say, they don't, I don't have the church, it's all run by women or whatever you want to say, well, then be a man and do something. Don't be a victim. Don't be marginalized. Go in and teach RCIA or go in. The Knights of Columbus do so much too, but stop the victim attitude. It's disgusting. You're a man. You have your responsibility for yourself. And I love what you said earlier. I wrote it down. Mission and self-sacrifice. That's true of men, but of women too, right? It's that those two things together. Because John Paul II said, love is self-donation. Aquinas said it's willing the true good for the other. How important was theology of the body when John Paul, wasn't that a great antidote to so much of this?
Yeah. Oh, no, undoubtedly. Absolutely. I think that was hugely important. And I talk about that in the book. He made significant contributions just to our understanding of womanhood. And remarkably, so many of them are corrections to what it is that feminism has been teaching. Feminism has done a number on even the gospel and scripture. Elizabeth Cady Stanton wrote a whole book called The Women's Bible that's basically like this adolescent commentary on scripture. And, it's just amazing to see how much has been really distorted. And so he kind of comes along and sort of shakes the sheets out, snaps everything up and cleans it out, I think. So that's been an incredible a blessing to have for sure. But yeah, I think that's an important piece of it. Is just people don't realize that the magnetism, is that the right word? The attractiveness and the compellingness that's there when there's a man or a woman who's really listening to God and really dialed into that and is leading because they hear God's voice. That is something that, I think as women, we want to see in men. And when we see that, like that is a game changer. That is something that a woman will, suddenly she doesn't need to be controlling anymore because she understands that she's being led in a way in a godly way. And I think that's, just hugely important. And I think I would love to encourage men to really, understand that in their own lives and start hearing God's voice and leading that way. Because, obviously, I have deep sympathy for men. I think men have been blamed for everything over the last 50 years. When in fact,
stop it. We don't need sympathy. We don't need the sympathy. We need a kick in the pants.
Well, I'd love to add my own kick in the pants because my work is a lot easier if men start standing up and saying, I have a purpose and mission in life, and you can follow me or not. That there has to be a sense of leadership, and also just even that deep understanding of the way in which women have been so manipulated. Their emotions, and men, are a real antidote to that. I can tell you, so many times in my marriage where I've been upset about something and my husband will come along and say, like, that's just not even an issue, like that, like, let's put that away, and just brought this incredible clarity and peace, as we're discerning through things in a way that I either couldn't see or wasn't able to.
Yes, a totally different perspective. I wanted to ask you about the complementarity. My wife, I'm kind of a bull in the china closet, and then people will open up and we'll dialogue like we have a coffee shop ministry. Basically, after Mass, we meet all the people coming and visiting, and people here, they're kind of in a more relaxed state. They're not in a hurry. We have great conversations, but my wife will nudge me, or maybe afterwards she'll say, "Did you notice this?" Clueless, something that person was looking for or needed to hear. And so, but there's a complementarity. What you just said about your husband, he probably says about you too. Can you talk about the complementarity of we go together, as John Paul II said? You can just look at us physically and we go together. Can you talk about that? We're almost afraid to say that these days.
Oh, absolutely. No, and I think it's really beautiful. I mean, one of the things that has wrecked it is this idea that women can do it all and we can have it all, and we don't need men in our lives. And I think that's just the incredible tragedy, because we're so deeply impoverished by it, because we then get puffed up with pride or with, the sense of this belief in our individuality. And yet we know, it just not, back to the theology of the body, that our fruitfulness comes only through two people together. And this is really, I think that what the body can help inform us about on a spiritual level too, just the richness that happens. And, my husband and I joke about how, when something challenging will come up, I'll just look at him and say, you're making me so holy right now.
My wife is very holy because of me.
Yeah, which, I think is
you mean
a
putting up with him? You mean putting up with him or something? Is that what you mean?
Exactly. And, I know he thinks the same of me, but it obviously puts it in a more humorous light. But the reality is that just think what happens when you really understand what the gifts are, which are, men are, it's protection and providing and procreation, and women have this capacity for nurturing and bringing life. And those things are very different. And if a man doesn't provide the protection and the protection, any of those really, then the woman doesn't have the capacity to really be vulnerable in a way that she can bring about life. We need the two in order for them to happen. And so what we're seeing is that, women now feel like they've either been abandoned, and then the vulnerability then gets shifted to the state. Suddenly they're married to the state. The state's the one that's providing.
Which is what they kind of want. That's what the whole movement is about, is the state.
That's been the focus of the movement. It's to get rid of the family and to get rid of faith. And so if you've got a woman who's dependent on the state for every need for her children, then you're going to have real problems, and she's going to be very manipulatable and manipulated. So that's I think the real tragedy. So it's easy to sort of see it in the negative, what it is that happens when we have these distortions. But then when you see it in the positive, you can really see this deep, deep friendship, this incredible gift that God gives to a couple where they can communicate things without actually saying them because they know. That beauty of again back to that idea of friendship.
Or one word or one look. Cindy and I met her tandem surfing. I compete when I lift a woman when I'm surfing. I met her in Florida, and we tandem surfed together. We still do good. We made it to the semifinals. The last two contests, didn't win them, but there's something about that unity on that surfboard. You see pictures of us paddling together. We're both paddling in time. I'm behind her and she's in front of me. Then when we get up, I give her a little hint by pushing down on her hips that she needs to jump because I can't lift her if she doesn't jump. But she goes, we go down and in rhythm she jumps. Then I follow her leap and push her up into the air. And there's something beautiful because my job as the man is the skill set I have is to find the right wave, then to drop in and position ourselves on that wave. And then to protect her is the most important thing. I used to run the world tour for tandem, and I kicked a lot of guys out of the tour because they didn't protect the woman. But when that's done, no one's looking at me when we're surfing. They're looking at this beautiful, powerful woman expressing, the beauty of a woman. You know what? We've run out of time. You got a minute or so to close. Do that for me.
In any event, I think that's exactly right. It's just the beauty that's there. We see it in dancing. We see it in all kinds of different ways. Those are symbols of what is so much deeper and richer on both a natural and spiritual natural level, for sure.
I hope you would come back someday. I know you're real busy,
I love it.
Yeah, it's a great. The men, we have a lot of men listen, and you're encouraging us so much. Dr. Carrie Cress, and the name of your book, and where can people find you?
It's called Something Wicked, and best place to find me is either at Instagram at Carrie Cress or my blog, Theology of Home, or carriegress.com.
Yeah, it's Carri, Carrie, and then the last name is Gress. Well, we always sign off here, and you're a frequent visitor to the islands. And you know how when you're here, people will yell aloha like that?
Yeah.
Well, ha means breath. It means to give breath, like what Jesus did when he breathed his spirit, or God did when he breathed into Adam. And so we always sign off with that. So I'm going to try not to be too loud, but you can join me if you like. Until next week, may the breath of the Holy Spirit aloha you. Aloha.
Thanks for listening to the Bear Woznick Adventure. Find more manly conversation at the Bear Woznick Deep Adventure YouTube channel. Subscribe and ring the bell.